And of course, you're checking your inventory. So, I mean, just for a multiplicity.
I'll try to speak more slowly than I walked.
Enjoy the ride.
You had quite the stride going there on that.
I felt like I was walking in slow motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't hear.
And I saw the cop car pulling away in front of me. Anyway.
Yeah.
They're here. Okay.
I know what I'm gonna ask for. She brought bread. She brought cake. Nick of time.
I'm sorry.
We were sending you a message.
here.
Sorry.
We got the men on this side.
Look at right here.
Women on that side.
Okay.
It's okay. I could be a not.
Dominique's
Cramp my style like that.
she's on
Just got
online.
in, just in time.
Yeah, just in time. Hey,
Really good.
okay.
Hello. Just in time.
I'll let you sit and then I'm going to start. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so we will go ahead and begin. And if everyone could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Christy, could you take roll call, please?
Sure. Critelli,
Present.
Nacarado,
Here.
Pappenfort,
Present.
Stevens,
Here.
Fontana,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Mayor Shore.
Here.
A quorum is present.
And that brings us to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments on that this evening?
No. That was pretty good. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Fontana, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort, and the motion is to combine and approve the items on the consent agenda. Further discussion? Okay.
Fontana,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And before we go to citizen comment, it says on here there's amendments to the agenda. Is there anything here, or is that just?
No, that's just format on the
Okay,
agendas.
very good.
No. You have your spiel.
Okay. So this is an opportunity for the city council to hear from our community. Public will be limited to 3 minutes each during citizen comments. Council may not respond to your comment this evening. Rather, they may take your comments and suggestions under advisement, and your questions will be directed to the appropriate department for follow-up. And if necessary, the city administrator will correct the public record. And tonight, we have Adam Martinez.
Hello and good evening all. I would like to comment about two topics. At the last meeting when I was done with citizen comment, Mrs. Dunes said for the record that Mrs. Adelman has been fined through the courts and in essence she's supposed to clean up her property. Well, that has not happened of this sort. And the thing of it is what I expressed to Mrs. Martin is she's not about to, in essence, comply with the law, nor does she think that she has to abide by the law because she doesn't have nowhere else place to go, but that is not the city's problem, in essence. And I think that you guys talked to Mr. Alio, Debbie Clark's attorney, and said about the situation. And one of the things that Mr. Alio said about was in essence, the city doing foreclosings on the property, and she is has wasted a lot of your guys' time, the police's time, the public health's time, code enforcement's time, everybody else. So, in essence, you guys have been slow on getting this thing resolved for us. And I think Ms. Clark has gone through the state of not having to rebuild her house, having to take an economic loss in everything, and that is the fault of the city because they were negligent. Now on a separate topic, I have said and expressed my, in essence, thoughts about the street closures, and you've heard me over and over again say this, and you guys, in essence, don't seem to care. It sounds like we're living in a dictatorship where you're shoving it down the people's throats, and in essence, and I think people want transparency, and I don't think that this is transparency. And I know you guys have all lied about the street closures and how it will bring economic revenue and everything. And I just think that you guys are so way off base on your facts and everything. And you guys will pay for it at the ballot box. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone online? Okay, that's all we have for that. No unfinished business on the agenda, and that brings us to new business and to approve the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. I would have thought this would have been Parks and Rec.
No. It's all fun
Sorry,
and
Diesel.
games, but it is not fun and games. This is serious. No, we,
You just got zinged.
Parks and Rec is not-
no, serious, is he football?
No.
No, okay. I'm so easily.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have the
We're
agenda.
just sorry.
Differentiating what's serious and what isn't. That's all, in a fun way.
Oh, my goodness. You're making me look bad in front of our auditors, guys. It's just when I thought, convinced them that I
They
had
now
a
know
certain
how
level of
approachable and
competence.
human you are.
Yeah, there you go. Anyhow, our audit firm McMahon and Associates have completed our audit, and they are in attendance virtually to present the results of that. And looks like we have Matt Miller, who CPA, and he is a partner with the firm. So I'll turn it over to you, Matt.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Are you able to hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Perfect. So like Amy said, my name is Matt Miller. I'm a CPA and one of the partners with McMahon and Associates. We've done your audit for a number of years now. We're based out of Avon, so not too far away. And we actually specialize in financial statement audits, specifically with local governments. So we don't do tax work or bookkeeping or anything like that. We do governments all year round. I had the pleasure of meeting with your finance committee yesterday. And so we did a deep dive in kind of the three main components of what the audit process actually is. So that covers planning, fieldwork, and then reporting. So reporting is ultimately what we're here to do today. At the end of the audit process, we issue two reports. One of them is the opinion on the financial statements themselves. And then the second one is called the governing board letter. So that is more or less our report card to you as far as how things went. To give you just kind of a quick highlight of what's actually in your financial statements, that's probably what the primary focus is here. You present what's called an annual comprehensive financial report. So that means that the city goes above and beyond what is actually required by the state of Colorado. And you actually receive an award for financial reporting. And so, once we're done, we submit to the state auditor, but you also submit to what's called the Government Finance Officers Association. And they do a secondary review. So that goes to another CPA, and then they decide whether or not you deserve another award. So this is actually your third year now that you've received an award. So this one will be submitted this would be the fourth straight year. And that, really is a lot for your finance team to tackle. So there's way more in this report than is actually required by the state. Just shows their commitment to go above and beyond and make sure that things look good. So the first part of your report is called the introductory section. So that's basically pages I through IX. And that is information from management. So there's a letter of transmittal there that talks about the city kind of looks back at maybe the history and then forward towards, your future goals. And then following that is the independent auditor's opinion. So that's section A. And that's really where the actual audit starts. So that's the letter from us. That's the opinion on your financial statements. You received what's called an unmodified opinion. That's a clean audit opinion. That's exactly what you want. And I don't know if you want me to share and scroll through the report.
That would probably be better, so, for you.
Let me. All right.
Did you get it?
Yes. Are you able to see that?
Are you scrolling?
Hold on. I might need to just
I think.
share the screen. All right. I think you can see my whole screen now. So this is page A1. That's the independent auditor's report. That's from us. So you received the unmodified audit opinion, which is the clean one. And there's nothing to highlight here.
Matt?
So no restatements or anything like that. Section B is what's called management's discussion and analysis. And that's really a consolidated high level.
Matt, I think we're having an issue or two here.
Yeah, Matt, we're not seeing what you're doing. I think we're gonna have to control it from our side.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I can give you page numbers if that helps. Although I assume it's in your agenda.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll probably work better. I'm going to have to switch screens here really quick.
This is going to end up being more difficult than the actual audit.
No.
There's always some technical difficulties, right?
Let's see that. Okay, yes, if you give me page numbers, I'll go through them.
So I'm on page 18 right now.
Okay,
So this is management's discussion and analysis. So that's again prepared by your team. And it's a consolidated year over year outlook. So basically what happened this year compared to last year and what do you plan on in the future? And it gives some detailed numbers there. And then if you move on to page C1, which is 32, that is where the actual audited financial statements themselves start. Like any government, you present two types of financial statements. The first one, so pages C1 and C2 are called government-wide financial statements. And so that's, again, a consolidated presentation, and it's a long-term outlook. So it includes all kinds of long-term items. So capital assets, your pensions are included there, and then any kind of liabilities that you have that are long-term. So that is shown in that section. And I kind of do a quick overview of that because there's a lot of accounting estimates that are wrapped up into those numbers. So depreciation is included in there. Your pension actuarial information is included in there. And so what I like to focus on would be pages C3 and C5, which is going to be 35 and 37. And this is the fund level financial statements. So that's probably what you're most familiar with seeing. That's where your general fund lives. That's how you budget. And that's, I think, a more accurate picture of what really happened during the year in terms of, being a council member. So specifically on page C5, you had a pretty big spend down of your fund balances this year. And a lot of that is due to the spend down for capital projects. You had the debt issuance last year that helped fund for the fire station. The bulk of that has really been paid out now. And so ultimately for the year, your net position is down about 13 million, which is all related to capital projects. And I think I'm giving you page numbers, but you're in the agenda, so it's a few more. If you keep going down, just like 3 more pages. 1 more. There you go. So that is really the income statement for your governmental funds. That's essentially how you balance. That's really the main focus, I would say. And then you don't necessarily have to follow along. I can just describe, I guess, what's in the rest of the sections. So once you move past section C, is D, which is the footnotes to the financial statements. That's really what's behind the numbers. What kind of significant accounting policies you have, what kind of cash and investments you're holding, what kind of capital assets, what are the maturities on your debt, and then there's a few other items in there, including pension notes and things like that. And then following that, you have sections E and F. Those are both budget to actual presentations. So for various funds, what you planned on happening versus what actually happened. There are some pension schedules there, which is what you're seeing. All that information comes from FPPA, so that's not anything that we necessarily audited. We just record it because they have their own actuarial study done. And then the final part of your report is section G, and that is the statistical section. And so that's the final part of your report that wraps up the annual comprehensive financial report. So the statistical section includes a lot of 10-year schedules. There's look on various kinds of demographic information. There's just a lot of kind of above and beyond there. And that's, again, something put together by your finance team. And in my experience, that's really the hardest part for them, is to track down some of that data, because you really have to contact other governments to get debt information, and there's quite a bit going on there. So that's your annual comprehensive financial report. I'm happy to answer any questions on that if anybody has any. Otherwise, I can take you through that board letter quickly as well.
So I'll stop for a second. Do we have any questions?
I just had a quick comment. We did, as Matt mentioned, we did walk through it in the finance committee meeting and took a good, solid look at it. Everything looks great.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, well, I think you're good. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, well, the last part is that governing board letter. It's just 2 pages long. It's nice and short, which is exactly how you want it. And basically everything in here is what we're required to tell you. We don't have any recommendations, or we didn't have any internal control issues to note. So that's a pretty big feat for a city of your size to have nothing on there when you have all the departments and various things. So that's really kudos to your accounting team for keeping everything moving smoothly. So the first part of that letter is called qualitative aspects of accounting policy. And that just really means, again, what's behind the numbers. So there's 2 things there. First is accounting standards. You did adopt 1 new accounting standard this year, which relates to something called compensated absences. So that is basically like PTO, sick time. There's just a few changes there, but nothing that actually restated your financial statements. So minimal effect to the city for sure. Just a few different footnotes. And then the second part of that are significant estimates. So you do have 2 main estimates in your financial statements. The first one is depreciation on capital assets. At the end of the day, how you depreciate those is based on, kind of industry standards, nothing unusual, but it is an estimate. So that's an FYI. And then the second one is the development of those pension, either assets or liabilities. In your case, you had a pension asset this year. That is done by an actuarial company, so completely separate, but technically they're projecting, mortality rates and all kinds of things out, 30 or 50 years. So that's a pretty big estimate as well. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we're pleased to say we did not have any. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, we did post a few journal entries, and they were primarily related to the adoption of certain new accounting standards. It was not brand new this year, but last year there was a new accounting standard related to subscription-based IT arrangements. So we identified a few new ones this year, so we helped record those. But overall, all of the journal entries that we posted, I wouldn't say would be, an actual accounting error. So we didn't come in and change the net income on a bunch of your funds, and all of a sudden what you based your budget on last year is completely different. And as a council member, that means that the information that you did make all those decisions on was accurate. So that's an important thing to highlight. Disagreements with management, we did not have any. They agreed with what we had identified. And then the last part is that This is a preliminary report still, so it has not been finalized. Before we do finalize, generally we would wait for you to accept the audit, but also Amy has to sign what's called the management representation letter, which just basically says that everybody's been honest with us, they didn't try to hide anything, and that they basically put their best foot forward. And that's all I have for you, unless anybody has any more questions for us.
Any questions? Appreciate the report, thank you.
Mhm.
And I guess that will take us to council discussion. I just wanted to start it off by thanking Amy and Kristen in the finance department. It would be easy to take for granted over the last few years getting these really good reports. And I know Councilmember Critelli, and at the time, I believe Councilmember Pappenfort was our treasurer. It was our very first audit report. This would have been in 2018. And we were on the cusp of getting a deficiency letter, which is a really big deal and a really big no-no. So never take for granted the really good hard work they've done and in the pursuit of transparency and making people feel really comfortable with the numbers put forth by the city. So thank you very much.
Yes, they do great work.
I just wanted to highlight what Mr. Miller said about how there was more information included than necessary, and that is the transparency that I know you aim for, Amy, and what we aim for as a council and as a city, and I just want to thank you for that.
Okay, I'll pile on. Congratulations for, 4 years in a row, because I'm counting this year. You haven't got the awards yet, but I know you're going to. Yeah, and you guys are just award winners. And you just go above and beyond. And it's a fascinating report for people who are into that kind of thing. It's long, so when you get ready to read it, carve out some time.
I just want to point out, we have many people review this, and we thought it was perfect. Elisa found a typo.
Really, because I found 3.5.
But you chose to be silent.
No credit.
None taken.
I can make a motion.
That'd be great,
Ready.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Fontana, seconded by Councilmember Martin. And the motion is to approve the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report as presented. Further discussion?
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
motion passed.
Great, and then, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
And then next up, we have Resolution 2025-24, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, adopting 2025 inclusionary housing maximum sales and rental prices.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so this evening, we're going to talk some affordable housing stuff. First up, as the mayor has said, AMI, which means area median income, maximum affordable monthly rent and sales prices. So I'll give Christy a second to pull up my presentation, please.
I have it up here. Okay.
Thank you very much. So on the next slide here, this is showing the table that was provided as part of the packet. First, we're going to kind of dive into the first two tables, and the intent of this presentation is to kind of help you guys understand where some of these numbers are coming from, how they've been determined, and our flexibility or inflexibility with how they might be able to change. So on the next slide here, this is the first two tables of the presented inclusionary housing, maximum incomes, rentals, and for sale prices. So Colorado Housing and Finance Authority, also called CHAFA, They have released the updated area median income, AMI, data, but they release it by county for each year. This is always based on numbers that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also called HUD, they base their numbers off of what they get from HUD. So it's CHAFA and HUD working together by county to help us derive these numbers. These are also, the information that HUD is getting is from census data, primarily ACS, regional factors, and CPI. So this data set, this data sets the maximum monthly rental price. Rent maximum is 30% of the household yearly gross income and is assumed to be 1.5 people per bedroom. So I kind of have provided these rectangles around the areas to provide an example to show kind of how we get these numbers. So the top box here shows 60%, 80%, 100%. And then if we focus on the non-blue highlighted, just the regular numbers, 120, 140, and 160. All of these numbers are simply a calculation of what's being shown in the 100% column. And all of these numbers are provided by CHAFA for Chaffee County. And then if we take, so for example, if we take a three-person household at 100% AMI, that income will be $92,600.
Or less, right?
Correct, the 100% is the maximum.
Great.
And if we take that number and divide it by 12 for 12 months, and then multiply it by 30%, again, that's the household yearly gross income assumed. Then we get the 2,315 number in that bottom chart. So we can go over any questions about that, hopefully at the end. So these are federal standards and what both the state and federal entities use for affordability requirements and grants. So the city has committed to Proposition 123, which means that we have to utilize these numbers on the top table and on the bottom table in order to be compliant with our commitment. And even if we hadn't signed on, this still means that if we utilize these numbers, we can qualify for grants. So this is kind of like, we don't have much of an option to change these numbers here. On the next slide, so we do have some ability to change who is eligible for what. Salida prioritizes local workforce housing and also seniors for our deed restricted units. Salida has also adopted additional buffer of income for ownership units, and that's kind of what's being shown here. I know it's a little small to read. But so right now our targets are currently 100% to 140% AMI. So that's kind of shown down there on the bottom in those colors. And 160 is shown here because it used to be allowed. It is no longer allowed, but we still have to provide it in case some of those like legacy projects come in for those numbers. We have to be able to provide that calculation for them. There is currently not a buffer for rentals because historically the calculated amounts seem to be at or below market rates for rentals. They kind of like pass that initial gut check. Rentals also include utilities, which you can see in the middle chart there. Rent targets for us right now are 80% to 100% AMI. And I think the code is written in such a way that 50% or more of the rented units have to be 80%. So if you have 3, 2 of them have to be 80%, 1 could be 100. And then back to the graphs, just to kind of clarify a little bit how the buffers work. So right now, if you made the numbers shown in that red box per household, you would qualify for the red box in the bottom chart. So if you're a 3-person household, and you are at 119%, that gives you $110,194 as your household income. you could then qualify for those house numbers shown in the bottom table. And the bottom table is, some of the calculation information is shown there. I know, again, it's kind of small to read, but that has been kind of developed over the last couple of years. If you remember Catherine Dunleavy, our previous housing specialist, she helped kind of come up with these numbers based on other communities, worked with Bill Almquist a lot on it, and this is kind of what we've been using in the past. Seems to be working out pretty well for us, so that's what we're continuing as a part of this. And the last slide here shows some of the AMI changes over time. I think a couple of council members had asked, like, what's the difference? What was it 5 years ago? What is it now? So this is kind of just a little bit of a graph showing these numbers, again, are from Chaffa and HUD, not determined by Salida. So that's it for this first resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? It's wild to see how much since 2020, the AMI numbers, I mean, that's a 40% increase in 5 years. Over 40%.
Good job, obviously. We have no questions.
No, very well presented
Thank you.
and understood.
Do we have to? We do. Yeah, okay.
Council discussion.
Yep.
Does she want?
Council discussion.
They need to make a motion, the motion.
Straightforward.
Maybe.
I mean, it is what it is. We're locked into those numbers, so I appreciate that discussion. You know how it's tied to grant funding
Yeah.
and our commitments, so, you know, we have to use that blended HUD, Chaffa numbers, so carry on.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution.
Sorry.
You had something?
Yes.
Okay. Take your time.
Collegiality.
Slow it down.
Yeah, I did a bit of research into our workforce to see what their income levels are. Because as it was pointed out, these numbers keep increasing. And I do understand that this is not something that you guys came up with. HUD is the one, or Chaffa, this is Chaffa's?
And HUD.
And HUD,
Together,
okay.
yep.
And yeah, I guess, I was just concerned because it's just been steadily increasing, whereas wages for the workforce are not increasing at the same rate. And so I did reach out to our superintendent, and I heard back from our business manager for the school district. Teachers aren't even going to be making the 80% level. Same for custodians, kitchen staff, paras, who are all more than likely doing the slightest shuffle. Our fire department, I heard back from them, they have $64,000 at starting. Police department, $68,000 starting, so they are closer to the 100% AMI, but yeah, fall between that 80 and 100. Our service industry workers reached out to several restaurants in town. On average, they are making $50,000 a year. And so I know that, again, it is what it is. I just want to point out that these numbers are not reflecting what the workforce is making. And we are committed as a city to 80 to 100% AMI. We are leaving behind a lot of our workforce by doing that because they are not falling into the 60% AMI. And that is just something that I feel like I need to point out. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate you bringing that up because it has been a source of frustration. I know when we went to that CAS meeting last year, there's a lot of other communities sharing their frustrations with some of the limitations around AMI. And unfortunately, we have to go by those numbers, but that doesn't make it any easier to swallow. Yeah.
No, not at all. When, and I was one of those who asked for that last chart to see the differences in years. And I took my calculator, I went through, and it's a percentage of increase every single year. And it's not going down. I mean, from when it first started, and I don't have the answer, and maybe these next few meetings for council will bring in some insight, or the CML that we're going to attend will bring in some more additional information on how to help this.
Yeah.
But right now, like you said, this is what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to say, I mean, being moved here, being part of the workforce, you know, for as long as I can remember, I've never been able to work, you know, a regular job or one job in this town to be able to make it. I finally broke out on my own to cut out the middleman, to, you know, try and make a life here, to, you know, 'cause this is where, you know, I want to raise my kids. I want to, you know, I want them to live here and be able to thrive here. And so it's just, that's kind of the way it is. I haven't talked to anybody in my industry that does just one thing. You know, I've just launched, you know, 2 new job startups just in the last month to, you know, try and, you know, so that's, I mean, that's kind of where a lot of people are at. It's like you can't, and then that's, you know, quality of life goes down because you know, that takes up a lot of your time to be able to spend with your kids and do the things that we moved here for. So yeah, it's very hard to kind of swallow these numbers when they keep rising and rising, and, you know, you gotta do more and more, but yeah, it's,
Chief Johnson also pointed out to me that 5 out of 26 of our police force live in city limits because of the cost of living here. It's less than 20% of our police force.
I see a nodding head in the back of the room from our fire chief, so I'm sure it's a similar story there.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I feel like I live in city limits because it's a requirement for me to sit here. But, you know, when I look at like staff, yeah, I still am. You can check. Yeah, whereas like, you know, I don't blame like staff even, right? To like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just general staff, right? These discussions are always kind of tied, so, you know, like our wings are clipped without like the grant funding. Like we just can't proceed with that. So it's always just under that greater grant discussion. It'd be interesting to see how that money is being used, or where it's going towards to kind of compensate for that. Yeah, and especially when it comes to like, this is just a consistent census. What were the other factors so it was census, it was
Seasonal factors and CPI.
CPI, okay, yeah. Yeah, and it is just frustrating, so hard not to voice it.
And unfortunately, mortgage rates have gone up so much in the last 3 years
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, over 6%.
can I plug my new job, side hustles on my? Gonna get a little
Is it in city limits?
I should have added that in with that little speech.
Yeah.
That's my opportunity.
I appreciate shedding light and bringing all of that up. Is there any more discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
Okay, I will. I move to approve Resolution 2025-24, adopting the 2025 maximum monthly rental and for sale prices for inclusionary housing units effective June 17th, 2025.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Gertelli, seconded by Councilmember Pappenfort. The motion is to approve Resolution 2025-24, adopting the 2025 maximum monthly rental and for sale prices for inclusionary housing units effective June 17th, 2025. Further discussion?
Pappenfort,
Yes.
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Martin,
No.
Stevens,
Yes.
Montana.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And if you wouldn't mind letting me know, because I can't see Councilmember Nacarado, if she wants to speak, just let me know.
I've been keeping an eye.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And then next up is Resolution 2025-25, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Salida, Colorado, amending the 2025 fee schedules.
Did you have a presentation on this
It's
one?
at the end of the last
Okay.
one, yeah. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so first things first, this is mostly, as the resolution states, changes to the inclusionary housing fee in lieu. So when is the inclusionary housing fee in lieu, when does it apply? Per the Salida Municipal Code, a developer can satisfy this requirement for providing the inclusionary housing units by paying the fee in lieu only if the development has for 5 or fewer units, or for a fractional portion of a unit when a larger development is proposed. So the next slide here, the intent of the inclusionary housing fee in lieu is to bridge what we call the affordability gap between the latest actual home sale price for Chaffee County and the affordable home sale price for a typical unit. And our typical unit right now is, as shown kind of here on the right-hand side, is a 3-bed home at 130% AMI. This was determined, I think, just a couple years ago to change it to 130% AMI because that's more typical of what we're seeing right now. So the gap is then determined by the difference between these two, and then the 130% AMI 3-bed home is provided by those tables we just reviewed, provided by CHFA and HUD. So the next slide talks about the calculation. So now that we kind of have talked about columns D and E, which is that median home value for Chaffee County versus the 3-bed 130% house, we've defined that gap, which is shown in column F. And then we take that number, divide it by 6, because that's what our inclusionary housing regulation in the code right now requires, is 1 of every 6 units. And then take that, divide it by the average home size that we're seeing provided in Salida. And then column F gives us our affordability gap by square footage. And then on the next slide, we talk more about the fee in lieu calculation, specifically the sliding scale, which is a proration and helps to more equitably charge smaller developments while still achieving the intended impact for the inclusionary housing regulations. This also applies to any fractional unit of a larger development, like I said earlier. So that's it in a nutshell. The latest calculations are simply an update to more accurately reflect current market conditions and latest provided AMIs by HUD and CHFA. And we're not proposing changing any of the calculations. Most of the calculations were previously approved by you guys, and we're just proposing to continue those. Last thing to note is that no additional data regarding median rental unit rates has become available since the latest update, so no changes to that fee in lieu are currently proposed. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Did the number go up a little bit, or did it go, because last year it went down, if I remember.
So this year, last year was at 1359,
Yeah.
and now it's at 1398.
So up a
So-
tiny bit. Thank you.
Small increase.
Yes.
That increase is based on, from what I read and looked at, is based on the value of the homes.
Correct. And
Who's
the
valuing those?
Realtor, Colorado Real, do you remember what? Realtors of Central Colorado provides those for Chaffee County.
Okay.
So we're taking the median of the medians in our calculation. So we take each month that the realtors provide information to us, and then we take the median of that and find the overall median. It's a little cumbersome, but that's the most equitable way to calculate it.
Does that ever go down, or
It's gone down before.
it's going down?
What, at one point, wasn't it like $23 a square foot or something?
Yes, in 2022, when we first kind of started to do this by square footage, it was at $20.46. And that was also at 100% AMI, instead of now we're using that 130.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I had one more.
Yeah.
On density. So I know we're somewhat encouraging density
Yeah.
in the city of Salida because we have this much property left. It seems like with obviously, we voted on this last year and it came through, that creating one lot, it's $6.99 a square foot for the fees in lieu, right?
If you were adding one new unit.
Yes. One
yes.
new unit. So as you create more density, you're paying more fees, which makes sense on the chart. But then the density is being required by the developer to pay for more for density. I mean, even though we're encouraging density. Does that make sense, the way I said that?
I think I,
More dense you get, the more you pay.
Yeah, but the more you make.
The more units you are creating, the more money you're going to pay fees in lieu, according to this chart.
Right, and what I understood that to be is kind of a sliding scale. So if I'm building a home, I only have to pay $6.99. If I'm building a development, I gotta pay $12.58. Am I right?
I think I understand the question here. So if you're building more, 6 or more units, you have to build the 1 unit. And if you're building 8 units, you have to build the 1 unit, and then you can use the 2 new units, the 2 new unit rate. So you would continue to use the sliding scale. You would only go from 1 to 5, and then you would just always be building the rest of your units.
So the 8 would be, then you would use that sliding scale and use the 979 or the 839 instead
Correct.
for the additional units over.
For the fractional units over, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
Is that
yeah.
correct?
The other way to answer your question, Councilwoman Fontana, is that every time that a market rate unit is built in town, it increases the gap of affordability. It means there's more units out there that the workforce cannot afford to purchase. And so this fee is intended to sort of help make up for that gap. And so, yes, if you are a developer that's building 5 units, you're actually creating more housing, but you're creating more unaffordability. So this really is meant to make up for that as well. If the market was building units that were affordable to the workforce, this fee wouldn't exist, right? Or it'd be down close to 0. But because the market is so much above and beyond what is affordable to the workforce, we're trying to close that gap via this fee.
And closing that gap is the more units you're building, the more fee or inclusionary, the 1 unit that you will build to be put on there.
Correct, yeah. If you build the unit, as affordable, then that fee gets zeroed out. You don't owe anything, right?
If you can build it for.
If you can build it at that rate, exactly. And we do understand it's a difficult needle to thread to try to make sure that it's still something that's profitable to a developer to be able to move forward and still try to make up for some of that affordability gap.
Right. Because what you're saying is each time 1 unit is created, if it's just 1 unit, it increases the gap, so it's even less affordable for a workforce at 134, at 130% AMI. But if you are building more than 1 unit, you're hoping to narrow that gap?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're building more than 1, the number of units out there that are not affordable is growing, right? And so the fee helps to go into the fund to provide for ways to create more affordable units, right? However that may be, we can, via a city project, it could be used potentially to help bring down rent levels, subsidies, et cetera. There are a lot of different ways that we could use it, of course.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I move,
Jinx?
I move to approve Resolution 2025-25 and amend the 2025 fee schedule.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Pappenfort, seconded by Councilmember Martin. The motion is to approve Resolution 2025-25 and amend the 2025 fee schedule. Further discussion?
Critelli,
Yes.
Nacarado,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Peppenfort,
Yes.
Fontana,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, and that's on to council reports. Councilmember Pappenfort.
Yeah, we had a very long finance meeting yesterday. And one of the things that we have been curious about, that council has asked for many times, and I think that we might be at a point where staff could provide this for us, and that is on the short-term rentals and the hotel nights. We'd like to get some counts on the nights. We've not been able to get those before. I understand that that will be an approximation because there's some penalties and late fees in there and that kind of stuff. You know, so it won't come out exactly, but it'll give us more of a sense because we were trying to equalize that playing field and we'd like to take a temperature and see how is that going.
I'll support that.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
For data is good.
Yeah, quarterly, because that's how they pay, so that's, you know, all that you could do. You know, and then if staff sees that they could do something else in that vein, that'd be on staff, because we're not trying to make a bunch of extra work, we're trying to create a simple back figuring, right? And then the second thing I would like Chrissy to check into, if I can get some support on this, is if we could bring it back to the ballot on making the treasurer be a staff position. I bring that up because with the succession planning that we have going on, we essentially have a treasurer and a finance director at the staff level. Now, these kind of changes, if they're passed by the voter, don't occur until the end of a term. So it's not like, you know, I mean, when they did that to the city clerk, they didn't throw me out. They waited till my term was done, and then it just went over to staff. So that's how it would go. And I understand that that's how most of the municipalities are doing it, that they don't have a treasurer. I don't think it would be a real heavy lift because we brought it out before, but we brought it out as both. We brought it out as city clerk and treasurer. So maybe that same document, if we can do the timeline and so forth, could just be split out to just address the one and make it be a staff position.
Is that a work session? That's, to ask for support. Would that be a work session or?
No, it's simply a matter of.
Find out?
Chrissy is working with the county on coordinated elections to find out what the deadlines are. Yeah, Christy with a K.
Yeah, I'll have
Okay, Chrissy.
deadlines next week.
Yeah. You know, to find out if that's possible, and if it's not possible, you know, then to consider that for the next election cycle.
Okay.
Sure, I'll support finding out what that, if you're already working with them, just to see what that looks like.
Sure.
And I want to make sure I heard you correctly, that it would be after the term was up. Now,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's how we do things.
Yeah,
you
right,
know.
right. I just wanted to
You know,
clarify
if
that.
we decide to give up some of our pay, we're not giving it up now, it's at the end of the term, because we can't vote, you know, to throw people out. We're not a recall committee.
When was that last on the ballot?
That was back in 2018.
18?
Yeah. And it was interesting because the clerk position won by like 60 or 70 votes, and the treasurer position lost by the same amount. It was almost like it was at the end of the ballot, and people were like, okay, I'll go yay on this one, but maybe I'll do the, it was, I
Mixed
think.
message.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of clarity there. The clerk, when it went from elected to appointed, are you asking for the same thing for the treasurer's role?
Yes.
Because you said to go to staff, because the clerk's not staff, it's an appointed role.
Actually, in fact, Christy is staff, and she is the city clerk.
And so just so you know, back before that election, what happened is the deputy city clerk was a person that did all the day-to-day. The clerk was an elected position, but they weren't doing the day-to-day.
I was a figurehead, let's face it, that's what I was. I was teaching that particular deputy clerk a lot about Excel because she needed a lot of lifting up in her skill set. But that's unusual, because we have expert staff.
I think it's powerful to have our constituents vote somebody into office that their job is to look over the finances. In my opinion.
Bit of like a watchdog role.
I agree, but it might be just get some information to see what is out there. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, the voters would be making the decision anyway.
Absolutely.
Would this
But it's-
information gathering be burdensome, would you say?
Oh, no.
Okay, would be
Good,
okay?
good
All right.
question.
Yeah.
I'm asking
The
that
best
from now
question.
on.
Exactly. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Critelli.
Yeah, so next weekend, there's a play at a church called Still Alice. I've heard that some actors that are actually professionally trained are in it, and it should be pretty good.
Are you in it?
I'm part of a small role. So it's going to be really good. So please come by. It'll be Friday the 20th at 7, Saturday the 21st at 7, and Sunday the 22nd at 3. And it's a beautiful play. I guess I did want to bring up, while we were kind of mentioning it, the last thing that I had brought up that we had discussed, there was in the discussion talk about staff burden, and I had time to kind of reflect on that. I hope that anything that I bring to I want to bring to a council discussion isn't a burden to staff, but if it is, I would like to hear it from staff that this was a burden. I know we tend to make things up here, we're politicians, so we can make things political. So when I hear that from fellow council members, I go, oh, wow, okay, I'd like to know more data, like how much time did it take out of your day to address something that I requested. I want staff to feel comfortable to come up and let us know when that's happening, so that I'm not ignorant to it, and so I don't have to hear it from my colleagues up here, if that's the case. And if it isn't the case, then it doesn't have to be a game of telephone on that. I'm not trying to burden staff with any of my requests. And if I do find out that it is, I would gladly just say, forget it. I'm not trying to burden you guys. Just a little follow through with that. Other than that, this was the first FIB arc that I got to take off completely for. So it was awesome. First time ever that I wasn't completely just swamped with work. And it was just amazing to just witness everything from the amount of people that descend upon this community and how that is managed. It is no easy feat. From everything from just getting big crowds from one thing to another, as well as just all the way down to waste management. It was just incredible to watch, and the amount of work. And I saw the folks working on it with staff. It was awesome to just kind of play the role of tourist in my own community. and I'm sure others have more to say about it, but I'm just so impressed and proud of this community that we can take on something that huge and walk around the next day and there's like no trace, like there's no like impact crater. That is just really saying something. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nacarado.
Only to say that to apologize to not be there in person this evening. I was on vacation for the last council meeting and then managed to pick up some terrible germ on the airplane. And so keeping that to myself tonight. Thanks for some grace there.
We appreciate you keeping it to yourself.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Feel better.
Anytime.
Yes, and feel better. Thank you. Councilmember Martin.
I was reading the staff reports or the department reports. Thank you, Bill, for following up with Art Space for First and D. I really appreciate that. And I'm excited to hear more about the Mountain Valley Transit route that's going to be going on. I think it's great. We'll have something going on in our community that's local. I saw the map. It starts over at the Aquatic Center, goes up 50 onto Oak Street, down over to the bottom of S, and then it looks like maybe up G, and then back to the Aquatic Center. But I've already been telling some of my coworkers about it, and they're excited. So excited to hear more about that. Thank you, David Lady, for the work starting over on Oak Street. I noticed the detour changed from what was happening the first few days, and I think those are improvements that you've made, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, FIBARC team, Lindsay Sutton-Stevens. She really pulled it off again, and just the whole crew. But I did have a chance to also participate in some of the events before getting my butt handed to me at Sweeties on Saturday and Sunday. I did the hill climb. I got last place again. So I think we're I think we're just gonna make it a tradition.
You say I placed again this year.
I placed again.
Placed again this year.
Swept, make sure nobody fell behind.
Right. Someone has
That
to do the sweep.
nurturing part of you.
Somebody's got to be the sweep.
Talk about the big gloves.
Yeah, and I got to do the sup boxing too. I saw Councilmember Papenfort there. That was really fun. I was a little scared when I hit the water. It was like, oh my God, the current and the cold. And yeah, green team. I got to volunteer with that. And honestly, I will say there wasn't a whole lot of trash to pick up when I did my shift. And I think that speaks to all of us who live here, who care about our community, the tourists. Maybe they're coming and they see just how much we love it, and they're just also playing a role in that. But yeah, just thank you. And man, I love FIBARC. That was so good. And then I did get a chance to bring in some sweets in the tenderfoot room right before I got in. So please, everyone here is all staff. So yeah, if you guys want to eat that, go ahead.
Best report ever.
And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Yeah, just FIBARC. Yeah, what an event. I think, I've been had the opportunity the last 5 years and even in the early aughts to really kind of sit back and be able to, see how the inner workings of all this FIBARC-ness goes on. Because my wife, of course, Lindsay Sutton-Stevens, president for the last 3-4 years now, I think. And I just want to, just give a shout out to the volunteers of the board this year, because I think this is the first year in a long time I've seen it really just run seamlessly. I mean, all those volunteers worked so seamlessly together that they just pulled off a great event. From the great music lineup to the beer sponsors. Thank you, Ray Kitson, for all the beer. Anheuser-Busch for coming down and supplying the mixed drinks this year. It was just everything went down to it. Thanks to the green team, everybody that volunteers. Thanks for this city council here for coming down and enjoying it. Thanks to the staff. I also want to throw a shout out to the FIBARC dads and the husbands. Diesel Post back there. He's there every day.
Say FIBARC orphans.
Yeah, that's kind of somehow how we feel. I mean, these volunteers, they work year round, and it really shows how much love and dedication they have for this community when this FIBARC goes off as smooth as it did this year. But on a little bit of a sadder note, a darker note, as kind of how Council Person Curtelli said, the crater that was not left on the ground that you can see in the park. There was a crater that was left, and it came down politically through social media towards the volunteer board members, but mainly came down on my wife, Lindsay Sutton-Stevens. Only takes a handful of people to just completely crush something good. And some of the names and some of the really just kind of attacks that my wife has been working through, even today, this morning, she was deep into it. She has been called a MAGA real estate agent that has taken over FIBARC for her own, her own agendas. My wife is not a MAGA. She's liberal. She's always been, and the same people that she stood up for and will stand up for in the right space at the right time, stand right next to them and fight with them, really just tore her down. And she was called and told that she shouldn't be walking alone in downtown Salida, in her community that she works, tirelessly. My children were mentioned in posts. It was just disgusting stuff that's come through the pipes. It started about midway through FIBARC, but she's kept the head on her. And just please reach out, and show your support, which, there's been tons of support, way more support than there has been this stuff here. But, just in the way that, our country right now is in, it's in a very scary state. People that sit around here right on this board are, scared to go out and do their jobs, and they're scared for their families, and they go out and they do the things that they think they need to do, what they love to do to support their country or their state or their counties. And for that kind of stuff to trickle down into a small mountain town community whitewater festival is just, I don't even have words for it. It's disgusting. And so on an ending note, FIBARC, it's looking pretty dire straits for next year's board. Just because the volunteers that work on this board love to do the work that they do to make this festival go on. But this stuff behind the scenes, like the cyberbullying that they've put up with that starts to wear and tear. And this isn't the first year that it's happened. It's happened every year, but for that to trickle down into just a small mountain town community and put fear into somebody that just wants to bring people together and bring the community together and have a good time is just, I don't have words for it. But just FIBARC next year, if they're in a volunteer for somebody that can step up and kind of take over the reins, unless something changes dramatically between here and when they get started back up again. I'm scared for the future of our great 78th anniversary of the oldest and boldest whitewater festival in our country. So, and that's all I have for that.
Thanks. Thank you.
Sorry to hear that.
Sorry that your family's having to deal with that. Councilmember Fontana.
Yes, definitely along the lines of what Councilmember Stevens said. There is no place in this celebration for politics or bullying or anything else that goes on with that. So as a community and a city, we like to stand with that. So back to it, the city did an excellent job. I know FIBARC does a lot of work. I mean, I don't know because I didn't do that, but from what I hear. But the city of Salida staff is incredible. I would like to say thank you to them for their time and effort that they put into this event. We did talk about how that affects, you know, the labor and the staff and such at the finance committee meeting. And we play a huge partnership in festivals such as this, we as in the city of Salida. So this shout out to the staff. I mean, it's incredible. Along with this one, the Bluegrass Festival and the 4th of July, the city of Salida does help support these events to bring people together in our community. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. I did, on another note, the construction on F Street. I did have some people reach out to me and ask for an update, which I know the administrator will provide with.
Very politely, right?
Correct. I just had the most wonderful phone calls today. And they all asked for Chrissy to step up. So she's gonna do that. Just be patient. It's gonna happen with her report. I know the parking has gotten more difficult from what I'm hearing. I did obviously take rides down there. We all have. Be patient still. We still have some time left on the construction. We have some time left with David Lady and his people and Y&K. And they were asking, please continue with your routes as you can do that. Like you're going through and you're saying tomorrow's your water shut off or the next day. They're asking for continued communication from the businesses downtown that were politely reached out to me. Let's see. Oh, public safety and the fire during FIBARC. We appreciate them too. Yep, that's a lot of work. So I also had people, as we're selling weed products and, you know, fertilizers and weed killers.
I thought you meant marijuana.
Not marijuana. Not that kind of weed, people.
Like all the products?
It is, you know, Colorado.
We are a one-stop shop, but
Was it the lemonade stand?
I didn't have a license
my
for
God.
that, so not that weed. Okay. A lot of people coming in for weed killers at this point. But there's also a lot of people coming in saying, hey, my next door neighbor's not taking care of their lot and it looks like it's overrun. Is there something we can do about this? My first suggestion is talk to them. Talk to your neighbor. And then after you talk to your neighbor, you know, talk to them again. Volunteer to help. If you need to help cut your neighbor's weeds, there's lawnmowers for sale places and weed killers. So those are available. Talk to your neighbor. Reach out. We're a city. We all live right next to each other. So do that, and if not, get one of us and maybe we can find you some help. Let's see, concerts in the park. They're coming back on Thursday, so that's very exciting. Everybody support that. It's a free event, but it's not free. The city provides that event for people.
Nothing's free.
Nothing is free. I mean, you can walk right down there, you'll see a city at work, and it's wonderful, and we appreciate those. Farmers Market also went to the farmer's market. It's incredible. I mean, there are more vendors than ever. So please support those people who have a place to come, along with your local businesses as you come. Last thing to report is that finance committee meeting. It was a huge, very full agenda. And Amy and Kristen are incredible. You talk about this report here that we get a summary of once a year. They are inputting data every single day to get those. It's not like they get a check every time they input something. They are doing that. They're dotting their I's. They're crossing their T's. I want to say they're making it very transparent and they're doing a great job. I appreciate it. So the auditor's report, we talked about that. We talked about Kristen, very, very thorough job on the purchasing policies. She wrote that whole thing from, I don't know where she got it all, but it's awesome. I mean, went through it in detail. So she does a good job. She makes people stick to it. And, well, she tries. And so does Amy. And so we really appreciate that, because those are the things that are not thanked often. And then there was one comment that came up it was on our agenda with the fee waivers. Council, we've discussed this amongst ourselves and in the public here during discussions. We need to be very consistent with that as people come to us, as nonprofits come to us, as for-profits come to us. And we need to be consistent to help our staff. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We can't just make an exception here and make an exception here. And we need to help our staff because they are counting on our stability to make their jobs go. And that's what we're supposed to do on that. So last thing is just thanks again to Amy and staff. Good job.
Thank you.
That's all.
Appreciate it. You made a comment about talk to your neighbors first, and I would recommend to everyone here that that's always the starting point. Cyberbullying should never, ever, ever be the starting point. It shouldn't be the ending point either, but definitely not the starting point. And when I think about FIBARC this year, I mean, I think about all of the hard work and tireless effort that went in from the board, from the volunteers, from city staff. And it's just so saddening, so disappointing to hear about the cyberbullying that occurred. I mean, the FIBARC board was put into a really difficult position. This is a river festival. It's not about national politics. It's about bringing community together. And my experience the last few years has been national politics do not bring community together. It just causes the divide to grow. And so I know that had to have been a really hard decision on their part, because I'm sure they knew they were going to get a lot of blowback, but I applaud their courage. And if you happen to see anyone of the FIBARC board on the street, give them a thanks, give them a pat on the back. I think they could really, really use that right now. And for anyone out there, and I'm gonna issue a challenge right now, anyone out there that somehow, some way confuses cyberbullying with community service, it's not. Up your game, and I would challenge you next year to volunteer for the board. Thank you. And attorney report. Oh, I'm sorry, we have, well, attorney's not here, then we'll go treasurer.
Erica is online. Let me just check with
okay.
her. Erica Romberg. Do you have anything, Erica?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to do a quick update. I know Christy has updated you all, but we did have the Supreme Court arguments, and I just wanted to thank Christy for coming out to that. That was a huge support. We still haven't heard back from the Supreme Court yet, but we're hoping to get a final order on that soon. And once we do, we will update council on what that was. Also, really looking forward to seeing you all at conference next week. So thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. And then treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to report that the general fund balance is favorable at this point. Also, I want to take a moment and thank finance staff for all the work they did on the audit. Once again, they've done a great job. And then on April, city sales tax collections decreased by about $50,000, or negative 6.7% as compared to April of 2024. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. The city's portion of the Chaffee County sales tax collections increased by about $17,000, or 7.1% increase over April of 2024. In total, sales tax receipts are 3.4% lower for April and 1.8% higher year to date. I would like to call on Director Tahanovich and have her come up and kind of talk about what we've seen in the report this month.
Just when you thought you were done.
every month I do scan the detail behind the sales tax numbers for anomalies. And especially when we've been on a trend where sales taxes increase each month. And the county for April increased over a year ago. So I really did take a harder look than usual at the numbers. And what we found is in 2024, there was an anomaly. We're down $51,000 April to April this year, but there was a $55,000 payment made, a catch-up payment by a single sales tax vendor in our community that was late in making the payments. There was penalty and interest attached to that. That payment was not repeated this year. And so if we remove that payment from last year's data, we're actually up a bit from the year before by about 0.6%. So also it's not, I don't think we need to raise the red flag too soon.
We'll wait till May.
We're still going to be okay. Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's been end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And department updates.
I do have a few things, thank you. I'm gonna get to the construction in a minute. I'm gonna do the other stuff first. Just a reminder for those of you who may have received a robocall from Excel last week on Wednesday, they were kidding when they said they were going to have a planned outage during FIBARC. What they meant to say was it's going to be tonight starting at 11, go until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now, I don't have a map, so if you didn't get a robocall, you're fine. If you did, that is the time frame. So,
Really quick, just thank you for looking into that also. I think this is something that I know I shared with my coworkers and they're like, yeah, the city administrator did that. I'm like, right? So our city administrator, Christy Doon, she called Excel in the panic of like, please do not have a power outage during our biggest festival of the year, our biggest weekend. And they're like, okay, yeah, no problem. We can push it off. But Christy, just thank you for being on top of that. And I really think the whole city needs to highlight that for you. So.
Also,
Yeah.
to add one more thing to that, I got a couple of texts, I think the night before, I think the Tuesday before FIBARC, that the rumors going around that the S-Ray closures, the construction wasn't going to be ready for the weekend. And people were they're scared. And I instantly texted Christy, and she got back with me almost immediately that those were just rumors and the construction was going to be open. So that was another fire that she
will be done.
And never, ever, ever bet against David Lady.
Seriously, David does not let things not happen. So we have a really good team here. I think you all should be very proud of all of the things that this staff is juggling. Just another plug for Mountain Valley Transit Rider Program this summer. It's 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturdays. There's a circuit on Highway 50 at the hotels, coming downtown, dropping off downtown. It's a free service. There was very little marketing done for last weekend, and I think they had, 32 riders, which I think is great considering it hadn't really been marketed. So they're going to be keeping track of ridership this summer so that the city can have a better understanding of what kind of transportation issues that we have.
You said that's 3 to 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays?
Friday and Saturday night
Friday and
evenings.
Saturday.
Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. Parking, yes, parking. I'm really, really, really glad we were able to get the First and D parking, temporary parking area completed for FIBARC. It's been full every weekend since it's been done. So really happy about that, and it's temporary. So
Hearing you say.
I just want to let everybody know. I think as the city administrator and staff, we are exceedingly aware of the situation that we have downtown and the limited land opportunities that we have to create parking. So between the restriping in our downtown area, adding more ADA spots, looking at the boat ramp, how can we reconfigure that? What can we do in the Safeway parking lot that's the public parking area? We fully understand the position that we're in, and we'll continue to work to bring solutions forward, and we'll probably need more community input and support for those solutions as we move forward, because there are probably going to be some changes in what we have available to us right now in public parking next year, and it's going to cause us to reevaluate what we have.
Did those concerns come in just this last week during FIBARC, or were they, because that was, I mean.
No, it's parking is just, it's on my list of
recent-
every day,
these
what
recent
are we going to
concerns,
talk
just
about with
because
parking?
last week was a little bit different than
No,
normal.
I mean, the FIBARC week is always just wait till the day after FIBARC. Like, don't stress out about some things, but no, this is an ongoing.
But you have a bike now, so what are you worried
I
about?
do have a bike, you guys. I bought my bike. I know,
I saw
I'm super
that.
excited. Put my stickers on it. So FIBARC, yes, I volunteered for the front entrance Friday at FIBARC. There are some very not nice people who come to that front entrance, but that's okay. We also had our clerk's office volunteer as well. So I say any opportunity you can to volunteer for an event like this is extremely important to let you,
Thick skin.
think before you speak kind of situation. We do have, we always wonder what the impact of an event like FIBARC is on the community, whether it is sales tax related, how our businesses feel about it, where people are going, are they on trails, what are they doing, and how is it really impacting both positively and negatively for our staff or our community at large. So we have a meeting with Placer AI, who is a cell phone data management company, to look at the cell phone data over FIBARC, will help us understand how many people were in town, kind of how they moved through the city, and that'll help us kind of get a better feel for how big events like FIBARC affect us. So, any questions about that?
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Excited to hear.
We're trying to get the county to go in on a county-wide
Yeah.
membership with us so that we can be looking at, Poncha, BV, unincorporated county. So we're still working on it, but I'll let you all know once we have some info. All right, so construction. Okay, construction progress and deadlines scheduling. So I know it feels like it's been a really long summer, but we are on schedule with this. The press release that went out on March 10th stated that we'd begin work at 2nd and G on June 16th, and we did. So, and it is scheduled to be done July 18th, according to our press release, and there is nothing to indicate that it will not be done by July 8th. So, kudos to David and Y&K for staying on schedule. And if anybody needs a copy of that press release, I'm happy to reshare that information because it still holds true. Business access for deliveries. Yes, between the closure of F Street and the construction that is happening, there needs to be some maneuvering and tweaking to find solutions for delivery. To this point, staff has been able to work with business owners on a case-by-case basis to ensure that all deliveries happen on time in their scheduled timeframe. There have been no deliveries that have not happened for our business owners that we have been informed of. So if any business owner has concern, first reach out to Y&K Construction because they are responsible for the downtown area and ensuring that the traffic flow is flowing, yes. So first, Y&K Construction, obviously David Lady and Alan Webb with our staff are down there every single day. And so if there's concern from business owners that they're not getting what they need from Y&K, which I don't think that they won't be getting, can obviously come to the city and let us know. Again, ability for businesses to have delivery trucks, 1 or 2 at a time, any leniency with code enforcement to make sure that we, are allowing that delivery to happen. We really, I have not been made aware of any problems that are adjacent to the construction activities. So that area downtown between Sackett and Second and Third, we haven't been made aware of any issues down there. Our code enforcement is very aware that businesses need to continue in business. Yeah. So signage downtown showing how and where to park, how to access our parking lots. We went through a process last year that's pedestrian wayfinding, and now you'll see that the vehicle wayfinding signs are going up downtown as well that point people to the parking lots. We also have signage at First and E, First and G. There's public parking signs on First that show where to go, the blue signs to point people. So again, we are providing the signage. There is a balance between all the signage in the world and making sure that people can read the signs that are up. So we are still working on that balance. And if someone has a specific solution or example for us, please feel free to reach out. Police and Public Works addressing or supporting traffic flow downtown. And David can come up here. I will say what I need to say, and then he can fill in the blanks. So Y&K has a traffic control company who checks the signs on a daily basis. That's their job, to ensure that signage is properly placed in there, that it still makes sense. Like if it's pointing that way, that's a way that people can go. So there is someone on site that has that responsibility. I go for a walk almost every day down to F Street. I know David and Alan do. Sarah, Law, and I were down there today sitting on a bench watching how the traffic flowed and seeing if there were issues. And we saw issues. And so we're correcting those issues, which I'm going to get to in just a second. So please feel free to reach out. But right now, the traffic flow is being maintained according to the plan that we identified with the contractor at the beginning of the project. Now with a couple of exceptions. So David met with the contractor today to talk about some fixes to the traffic flow, given some of the issues that we're seeing, primarily with people who don't live here, who are not quite sure where to make a proper U-turn, which is something that we witnessed today, like making a U-turn in a crosswalk. And so the contractor will be sequencing lane closures on G. So when they're working on one side, the other travel lane will be open to allow for some traffic flow so it doesn't get bottlenecked at G and Second or on either of the subsequent streets. We will be removing the do not enter sign on Second Street's exit from the public parking by Safeway so that people can go through from Second to Third to allow for some more traffic flow. And then staff is highly recommending, asking council to approve the opening of all of Second to Third on F Street right now to allow for more traffic flow. Right now, we said that we would close it at the half block once we were done with Third and F, and having that blocked off at Second and F for people not to be able to turn south out of Natural Grocers, or if they are coming west on Second Street, it's causing some serious safety issues there. And David?
And can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So are you asking us to do that until July 18th? Is that it, or after?
Until
July 8th, and we have an over-under spread on that date as well.
we do.
But yeah, I think to keep that
Well played.
yeah,
What are the odds?
yeah. To keep that traffic flow through up and down Second Street from E to G. Currently, it is July 8th. I would say there is one last improvement after Second and G is done. There are some drainage improvements kind of in the alley between where First Street Flooring and Sukasa are located. And so there'll be some work on Third Street as well. So, and that's only supposed to take like a week and a half. So we may want to kind of play it by ear, but maybe more like mid-July.
I mean, I don't know how other people feel. I think whatever contributes to flow and safety, and I just think we would need to do some outreach to the affected businesses.
And we can start that tomorrow and go down there and.
So how would that work if you would like it opened sooner for the flow and the traffic? And from what I've heard, from other people before, this is why I reached out.
Politely.
They were hoping to have it open. Would we vote on that soon? Because now we don't meet for 2 more weeks.
I don't know that you need to vote on
Okay.
it. No, I mean, you
Just
didn't
open.
really vote on it before. It's been a conversation, so we were hoping to
Good.
remove the barricades tomorrow, to be honest with you, unless there was serious objection here.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. You know what you're
Doesn't
doing.
sound like there's any objection.
David, is that?
Yeah, that sounds great. We can make that happen. I think
Martinez.
also I met with YNK at 4 to 5 today and really talked through G Street. And it's going to look, it's not quite as complicated as the other 2 intersections. The paving's asphalt, which goes down a lot quicker. You don't have like the same cure time. We don't have the planners going in. So the construction is going to go quicker over on G. And I asked them, how much room they really needed to work. And they're going to make a concerted effort to go ahead and put in kind of barricades and actually keep G Street open and it'll be 2 very tight lanes, kind of while they build half of the intersection and then flip-flop the traffic. So if you were to go back there now, they actually around 5 or 5:30 tonight, they opened up the intersection. And they're going to try this kind of sequenced approach. Towards the end of the project, it's going to get really tight though for them, and they will need to close it to do all the paving and the subgrade prep. But I think that'll make the biggest difference because, yeah, it's a tough intersection to be working on, for sure.
That's what I have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, all that remains would be a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.